Imagine you stand in a corridor of stone that swallows sound and spits it back louder. You see torches jitter on armor. You feel sweat pool under your helmet before a single blow lands. Someone screams that the frontier is already gone. Someone else swears the emperor rides at the head. You don't know which truth matters. You only know the gate opens, and the east breathes like a wound. Imagine imperial coin clinks in a purse at your belt, heavy as obligation. You see men packed shoulder to shoulder, not brothers, customers of the same paycheck. You feel the press of bodies, the stink of old leather, boiled fat, wet wool. A priest pushes through, murmuring prayers that sound like bargaining. A mule driver curses in a language that turns every vowel into a knife. Mercenaries laugh too loudly. Veterans do not laugh at all. You see the narrow mouth of the fortress gate, and beyond it the open land that refuses to be controlled. You feel the empire behind you like a wall of paperwork and taxes and distant marble. But ahead, the ground belongs to riders who do not ask permission. Orders slap through the corridor, short, sharp, urgent. Move. Form. March. A scout bursts in as if chased by the horizon itself. Dust cakes his lashes. His horse foams. He shouts that mounted raiders skim the hills, fast, too many to count. But another scout collides into him, spitting a different story, not raiders, an army. Therefore the corridor turns into an argument. Everyone talks at once. Everyone knows someone who heard something. But certainty does not show up with the scouts. Fear does. You look for the one thing that ends arguments, authority. You see purple moving through the crush, Romanos for Diogenes, the emperor, close enough that the oil on his armor catches torchlight like liquid. You feel the pull of it. If he looks calm, your hands stop shaking. But if he misreads the land, you don't finish the thought, because finishing it feels like inviting it to happen. The mission sounds clean in the mouth and filthy in the hands. Take back the fortress at Manzikert, shove the Seljuks out, slam the door on Anatolia before it swings off its hinges. Therefore the line begins to move. Boots scrape stone. Shields knock thighs. Pack animals bray. You step through the gate, and the empire becomes distance. Imagine the farms thin out so suddenly it feels like someone tears pages from a book. You see abandoned fields with stubble like broken teeth. You feel the silence of places where children should shout. But the silence never stays silent. At night, hoofs drum far off, too quick, too light for your heavy cavalry. Laughter carries on the wind, not yours, not friendly. Therefore sleep becomes a rumor. Morning brings signatures. You see arrows planted upright in the soil as if the earth itself grows them. You feel your throat tighten because the message is simple. Someone watches. Someone can reach you. Someone chooses not to yet. Therefore, every man checks straps twice. The army is huge to feed cleanly, too mixed to trust easily. You see banners from distant provinces, different saints painted on shields, different curses when toes hit rocks. You feel the friction everywhere. Veterans glare at mercenaries. Mercenaries count exits with their eyes. But the emperor's order binds them for now, like rope around a bundle of knives. Water becomes a negotiation. You see men crowd a stream like beggars at a shrine. You feel elbows and ribs, hear the slap of skin on skin when tempers break. But discipline holds barely. Therefore a centurion cracks a staff across someone's shoulder, not to punish the man, but to warn the rest. Grain becomes an argument. You see hard biscuit passed down the line like small stones. You feel teeth ache biting it. Horses' ribs show through their coats like the frame of a collapsing house. Therefore every delay tastes like sabotage. Every extra mile feels like theft. Orders arrive like mismatched armor pieces. You hear one commander demand speed, as if speed itself kills Turks. But another insists on caution, as if caution feeds horses. Therefore the column lurches, quick for a while, then slow, then quick again, never steady, always burning strength for nothing. The word Turk moves through the ranks the way fire moves inside a wooden house. You see men make the sign of the cross without noticing. You feel a kind of anger at your own fear. But fear has a face, mounted archers who do not stand and trade blows. They sting, withdraw, sting again. Therefore the open ground becomes a weapon aimed at your lungs. The emperor chooses a gamble. You see officers huddled over rough maps, fingers stabbing at rivers and ridges. You feel the tension in the pauses between shouted instructions. But the army cannot be everywhere at once. Therefore forces split, detachments peel away like pieces cut from a living body. You feel it in your stomach. Separated hands cannot hold a shield wall. Manzikert appears ahead as a hard point in the world, stone, angles, a promise you can touch. You see its fortress walls like clenched teeth. You feel relief spike through you because walls do not run away. But that thought carries poison. Walls also trap. Therefore, the approach feels like walking into a fist. Skirmishes sting the edges of the column. You see riders crest a hill, loose arrows vanish. You feel the constant sprint and stop grind your knees. But every time the line forms, the enemy dissolves into distance. Therefore, you pant inside your own armor, and the metal smells like hot pennies. Reports clash. You hear Alp Arslan is near. No, far, no, already behind. Therefore, the mind becomes a battlefield before the body even arrives. You see messengers whip horses until their flanks bleed. You feel the camp tighten, like a throat closing. But the truth refuses to sit still. Therefore, every decision feels late the moment it is made. Then the inciting shock hits, not as a trumpet call, but as a sickening whisper that grows teeth. News sprints through the camp. A detachment is gone, or scattered, or betrayed. You hear the story change with each mouth that tells it. But the result never changes. Men do not return. Therefore, the frontier stops feeling like a wall and starts feeling like a wound that cannot clot. Imagine the camp at dusk. You see fires flare and die. You feel hunger gnaw, not gentle, but furious. A cook scrapes a pot that holds more soot than stew. Someone boils a strip of leather until it turns soft enough to chew. But chewing does not equal eating. Therefore, men stare into the darkness beyond the firelight, daring it to move. In the distance, a horn cries, short, mocking. You see heads snap toward it. You feel your spine tighten. But no charge comes. Therefore, the horn becomes worse than a charge. It proves control. It proves the enemy chooses when you react. Dawn forces motion. You see ranks assemble, shields lifted, spears angled. You feel the weight of your shield pull at the shoulder strap like a hand trying to drag you down. But the line moves anyway. Therefore, the earth begins to shake under thousands of feet, and the march resumes as if stubbornness is a tactic. The emperor rides close enough to be real. You see his jaw set, eyes forward, as if staring hard can make uncertainty obey. You feel men straighten as he passes. But admiration does not fill water skins. Therefore, discipline becomes the only ration that never runs out until it does. Contact comes like a snap of teeth. You see a wave of riders spill from a rise, bows already bent. You feel a hiss in the air, arrows. Not one or two. A sheet. Shields jump with impacts. Thud, thud, like someone knocks on wood to summon bad luck. But the riders do not commit. Therefore, your line advances into emptiness. You run, then halt, then run again. You see men stumble because armor turns sprinting into drowning. You feel breath claw at your throat. But when your spear tip finally points at something reachable, it is only dust and retreating backs. Therefore, rage replaces fear for a moment, because rage at least feels useful. Manzikert's fortress finally sits near enough to taste. You see its gate, its towers, its hard geometry. You feel the urge to lean against stone and stop moving. But the enemy never lets you stop. Therefore, even near the fortress, arrows find you, and the ground stays hostile. The army takes the place, at least partly. You see men rush walls, shove ladders, hammer doors. You feel the brief intoxication of success when a banner rises where it should not. But success arrives dirty and incomplete. Therefore, the larger threat still circles outside, patient, watching your celebration like a wolf watching a man count coins. Battle day arrives without ceremony. You see the line form, spears forward, shields overlapping, banners snapping. You feel the strange comfort of pattern, left, right, front, back, all defined. But comfort is fragile. Therefore, eyes keep sliding to the horizon, searching for motion. The emperor positions himself where visibility matters. You see the imperial standard, a fixed star in a sky of dust. You feel the pull toward it, as if proximity to purple reduces death. But death does not care about color. Therefore, men still whisper, still swallow hard, still rub lucky charms like bargaining chips. The Seljuks begin their true work by refusing your rules. You see mounted archers sweep close enough that you smell horse sweat and sour breath. You feel the slap of hooves on packed earth. But instead of crashing into your spears, they slide away, turning as they shoot. Therefore, arrows fall like hard rain, not one storm, many small storms, never ending. Your shield arm starts to numb. You feel impacts stack on impacts until bone seems to ring. You see feathers quiver inches from your face. But dropping the shield equals inviting an arrow into the eye. Therefore the arm stays up, trembling, punished. The order comes, advance. You see the line surge, slow and heavy, like a door pushed against a flood. You feel your feet sink into churned ground. But the enemy retreats, always just beyond the reach of steel. Therefore, every step forward costs breath and gains nothing you can hold. A comrade beside you takes an arrow in the throat. You see his mouth open, but no shout comes out, only a wet gurgle. You feel warm spray hit your cheek. But stopping to help means breaking the line. Therefore his body drops and boots step around him because the line's shape matters more than one life. The horizon keeps moving away as if laughing. You see riders turn their heads to watch you labor. You feel humiliation rise hot in the chest. But humiliation becomes danger because angry men chase. Therefore discipline has to bite down hard, hold the line, keep spacing, don't sprint. Somewhere ahead, heavy cavalry tries to force contact. You see armored horses lunge, lances drop. You feel hope spike, finally collision. But the Seljuk split like smoke, letting the charge stab empty air. Therefore the cavalry drifts too far out, and suddenly arrows concentrate on them like a decision. You hear screams, horses, men, both. You see a rider tumble, armor turning him into a fallen statue. You feel the temptation to look away. But looking away wastes awareness. Therefore eyes stay forward, and the mind catalogs horror as if it is inventory. Time turns viscous. You see the sun crawl, but the arrow rain never ends. You feel your mouth go dry, tongue thick, lips cracked. But there is no pause to drink. Therefore thirst becomes another enemy you fight with clenched teeth. Late in the day, an order moves through the line like a chill. Pull back, reform, return to camp. It sounds reasonable. But turning a heavy line under missile fire is like turning a ship in a storm. Therefore the moment bodies pivot, the formation breathes, and the enemy dives into that breath like knives into ribs. You pivot. You see gaps open between shields, small at first, then wide enough for a man to slip through. You feel the instant vulnerability in your exposed side. But the Seljuks do not need permission. Therefore riders surge in exactly where the line loosens, and arrows now come not from ahead, but from inside the space you thought belonged to you. Someone's standard dips and does not rise. You see the banner cloth fold like a wounded bird. You feel panic flare because banners are not decoration, they are the spine. But panic is contagious. Therefore men shout conflicting commands, and the line stops being a line. You hear steel ring close, too close. You see a Seljuk rider slash at a man's face, then will away before a spear can pin him. You feel the sick respect for that speed. But respect does not stop bleeding. Therefore you jab at air, missing, wasting strength. Another blow hits, colder than arrows. Part of your own army peels away on a flank. You see dust clouds moving wrong, bodies streaming as if fleeing. You feel the mind scream questions. Is it retreat? Planned maneuver? Betrayal? But answers do not arrive. Therefore the flank becomes naked and the enemy sees skin. The Seljuk circle tightens. You see riders appear wherever you are weakest, not by magic, but by reading your fractures. You feel the army break into terrified groups, each one certain the others abandon them. But certainty is a luxury. Therefore survival becomes small. Find a cluster, find a banner, find any shape that holds. You push toward the imperial standard because it is the only fixed star left. You see bodies pile, shields splintered, spears snapped like dry reeds. You feel the ground slippery and you realize it is not mud. But stopping means falling. Therefore you keep moving, boots sucking free with every step. You glimpse the emperor fighting, close, real. You see him swing, not like a symbol, but like a man trying not to die. You feel a surge of loyalty because a ruler who bleeds beside you feels undeniable. But loyalty does not widen your shrinking circle. Therefore men press inward, trying to protect purple with their own bodies, and that pressure becomes another trap. The ring closes. You see faces twisted with effort, eyes wild, mouths open in silent screams because breath is gone. You feel blows from every angle, shield rim into jaw, elbow into ribs, horse shoulders slamming like a battering ram. But the enemy does not need to kill everyone. Only the center matters. Therefore the imperial banner staggers. A sudden shove ripples through the crush. You see the emperor unhorsed or dragged down amid churning bodies. You feel the world tilt as if the ground itself loses rank. But maybe he rises. Maybe guards pull him up. You don't know. Therefore hope flickers, then sputters. Hands reach, too many, from too many directions. You see fingers hook armor straps, yank, pull. You feel the sickening wrongness when friendly hands cannot reach fast enough. But the noise swallows clarity. Therefore a shout rips through, raw, disbelieving. The emperor is taken. In that instant, the empire's heartbeat stutters. You see men freeze for half a breath, as if the body forgets how to move without its head. You feel cold spread under the breastplate. But the enemy does not freeze. Therefore the slaughter accelerates, because doubt makes every defense late. Night falls, and battle becomes a scavenger's market of groans. You see the field littered with broken shields and snapped spear shafts, glinting like teeth. You feel exhaustion so deep it becomes numbness. But numbness does not protect you from a knife in the dark. Therefore survivors huddle, listen, and flinch at every footstep. You stumble among bodies, and some still breathe. You see a hand reach up from the dirt, fingers shaking, begging without words. You feel the urge to lift him. But lifting him means slowing, and slowing means dying. Therefore you whisper something that sounds like a promise and keep moving, hating yourself for it. You look for units. There are none, only survivors. You see men with torn cloaks, blood-crusted beards, eyes too large in their faces. You feel the silence of men whose future evaporates. But someone always speaks eventually. Therefore rumors start, because the mind cannot stand emptiness. The rumor becomes a fact you cannot touch. Romanos lives, but captivity holds him. You see mouths form the words like they taste poison. You feel the top of the world removed, as if the sky loses its beam. But what does captivity mean? Ransom? Humiliation? Civil war? Therefore fear multiplies, because the enemy is no longer only outside. Somewhere beyond reach, in a tent of embroidered cloth, bargaining voices rise and fall. You do not see it. You only imagine it, a sultan calm as a man counting coins, an emperor forced into politeness. But the point of power is distance. Therefore history gets decided while you count the dead and tighten a strap with shaking fingers. Retreat begins, but it does not look like marching. You see men slip away in small knots, avoiding the main roads as if roads betray. You feel shame cling like wet wool. But shame cannot stop hunger. Therefore soldiers trade rings for bread, helmets for a drink, loyalty for a night alive. Garrison towns hear the rumor and lock gates. You see closed doors, raised bridges, eyes peering from slits. You feel rage. This is your land, your empire. Why do they fear you? But fear is practical. Therefore peasants hide grain, because hungry armies steal as efficiently as enemy raids. The army that should defend Anatolia becomes a story Anatolia tells itself to stay awake at night. You see mothers pull children inside when armor clinks on the road. You feel how quickly protection turns into threat. But the enemy does not need to conquer every village now. Therefore the vacuum does the conquering for him. The true crime scene is not only the battlefield. You see it in the gaps that open afterward, unmanned forts, leaders arguing, messengers disappearing. You feel the collapse of command as a physical thing, like a snapped spine. But borders are not walls without people. Therefore borders become invitations. Anatolia begins to open, not overnight, but like a door with a broken latch. Imagine months passing in the rhythm of panic. You see refugees clog roads. You feel coin lose value because survival matters more than law. But the enemy's greatest weapon is time. Therefore riders settle, farms change hands, tongues change, prayers change, and the map rewrites itself in slow violence. Far away in the west, other ears catch a different version of your terror. You see distant courts and pulpits turning rumors into calls. You feel how one fear becomes another man's opportunity. But no single battle creates a tidal wave alone. Therefore Manzikert becomes a spark that lands in dry kindling. The east is falling. The sacred places are threatened. The fuse lights. You do not see future crusading banners here in the mud, but you feel the chain pull tight across continents. But chains do not announce themselves when the first link snaps. Therefore this field keeps echoing long after the dead go quiet. The verdict arrives not in a proclamation, but in a counting. You see fewer comrades at every dawn. You feel the empire's confidence drain away like blood into soil. But the cost is not only bodies. Therefore, the cost becomes trust between commanders, between provinces, between ruler and ruled, and once trust bleeds out, armor cannot replace it. You stand on a road that leads away from Manzikert, and every step feels like leaving something unburied. You see smoke from a village that cannot defend itself. You feel the question hammering: if an emperor can be taken, what cannot be taken? But the answer does not come. Therefore, the future arrives as raids, bargains, betrayals, and desperate prayers. Now the mirror. Imagine a system today, any system, built on chains of command, confidence, and the belief that someone competent holds the center. You see how it functions smoothly when everyone trusts the signal. You feel how fast it unravels when signals conflict. But when leadership fractures, people do not wait politely. Therefore, the vacuum fills by whoever moves fastest, by whoever lies best, by whoever feeds fear with simple stories. Do you see the same pattern? Not the armor, not the banners, the pattern. Mixed loyalties, uncertain information, a divided force trying to control open ground, then one moment of collapse that turns order into a stampede. But the hardest part is not the battle. Therefore, the hardest part is the morning after, when survivors realize the world expects them to pretend nothing fundamental breaks. The legacy question waits at the crossroads, uncomfortably quiet. Imagine standing among survivors as rumors spread: betrayal, incompetence, bad luck, divine punishment. You see each explanation offer relief because it gives a target. You feel the temptation to choose the story that hurts least. But the story chosen becomes the empire you build next. Therefore, the question is this: when certainty dies in the dust, what truth is chosen? One that comforts, or one that prevents the next Manzikert?